Hi, and welcome back to Plastic Models by a Regular Dude and the Italeri 1/35 scale M47 patent, kit number 6447. So I finished steps 1 and 2, and thought so far all of it fit together with no problems. A few things to watch for are the ends of the torsion bar axle kind of thing here, right here, where they go into the hull. The stubby part needs to be cut off, or else the road wheel or the swing arm won't go all the way in and bottom out like it's supposed to, because it'll be out of alignment and you won't be able to get everything lined up thusly. Okay, so that's the one thing to really watch for. Just make sure the axle portion that goes into the hull, little ejector pin extension plastic piece is cut off. I talk about it in the previous video, so if you haven't seen that, take a look and you'll see what I'm talking about. Other than that, everything fit together great. No problems at all. Cleanup was very easy, so far so good. So the next part, step 3, the upper hull and some of the fittings thereon. So let's start with that. All right, the first thing I want to take care of is the upper hull. So I'm going to get this cut off of the sprue here. And as you can see, I'm trying a different camera angle. In my last video, I noticed a few things. I tended to, because of where my camera was located, I tended to drift this way and out of frame, and that's annoying. And then other times you could see my noggin and glasses like right here kind of getting in the way, so I swung it around. Shouldn't hinder the view very much, and hopefully it'll be a little bit better. I'll be able to keep it in frame better and not have to worry about whacking my head on my camera arm or anything like that. So that's in case anybody was wondering what I was doing. So first thing I'm going to do is cut off these sprue attachment points here, like that. Then I'm going to kind of check it for some flash, and there's very light flash around some of the edges. So I'm going to take care of that, sand it off. The attachment points in the front, those cleaned off pretty good. One thing I haven't got figured out yet is how to get rid of this shadow. You can probably see right in here. It's because of my light and where it is located in relation to my desktop, and I'm going to work on that, see if I can get it figured out. But for now, it'll have to do. Okay, so I already did the front of this. So the flash is not bad. It's barely there, but there is some. So you'll want to take care of that. And I'm just using my smoothest sanding stick because it's not taking much to get it cleaned off. Just make sure that you get these sanded off to where they're flush and there's not a divot there. So that's pretty cleaned up. Then there's a little bit on the edge here, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of skim along the edge there. On the back here, it's a little more pronounced on the back here. As a matter of fact, I think I'll scrape that off. That's quite a bit of material there. And then just sand the burr off. Like that. Again, for some of my longtime viewers, I'm not doing anything here I haven't done before, but again, I'm gearing this toward the potential of having beginners watching this so they can see what I do, develop their own methods accordingly. Get all the sharp edges off. Okay, so that looks pretty good. All right, and then do the same thing on here. Just kind of hit the whole side. And get that flash. Now, if you get one of these kits and you're building it, you may not have any flash, or you may have more. So, as they say, your mileage may vary. Just get it all off of there, because once you start painting and weathering, it will be super pronounced, especially when you get to the weathering stage, because it really highlights detail. It also highlights flaws if you're not careful. Okay, so that one's looking real smooth. So off camera, I'll do this other side so you don't have to watch me doing both, and then we'll come back and start getting some more of the parts. All right, the next parts I need to get are the exhaust, and it only shows the exhaust for one side. So that's 36 and 37. So I'll get these first. And get these cleaned up. I'll clean these up somewhat, but I'm going to do most of my cleanup after I've glued them together, and they've had a chance to dry, to cure up properly. Okay, now this one's got some flash inside of here, so get that scraped down. So hopefully I won't have to okay, so that looks pretty good. So I got a couple of clothespins I'm going to use to glue these together. Just make sure it's lined up. So what I'm going to do here is get the old let the old capillary action draw the cement along the seams. That way when I squeeze it together with the clamps, it'll kind of create its own filler with the plastic. So hopefully it'll ooze out a little bit of the seams. Then I can just get it all sanded and smoothed out with minimal fuss. So we'll set that aside, let that dry up, and then get... Now why they have you do just one side here, I don't know, but there's just, it shows muffler on this side. Then whenever you're doing more of the details, you do the other muffler. So I don't know, it's kind of weird, but that's the way it says. So I think what I'll do first is I will cut out the parts 32, 33, and 34 for that side. So we got 32. And this will be easy. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 grab handles on that one, 4 on this one, 3 on this one, so it'll be easy to make sure they get in the proper place on the engine deck, so I can cut them all off without fear of mixing anything up. So let's see, let's get these cleaned up. Not really any cleanup needed there. Those cut off real close to the point where the grab handles are molded, so it cuts off really flush and smooth, so there's no sanding necessary with these cutters. So now this is where you need to decide if you want to display the engine, because if you do, you'll want to glue it with the hinge part open. And if you watch the video that I put in the comment section or on the description section on my last video, the YouTube channel, the Chieftain's Hatch, it shows how far these things swing back, so you'll know how much to swing them back when you glue them to make sure it looks authentic. But in this case, we're not doing that, so we'll just put them on here. Like that. Let's see. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then lastly, this one, whoops, goes here like that. So that all looks real good. All right, so all I gotta do is glue those in place. Okay, so here's something you want to watch for. If you just set the parts in there, this part doesn't sit in there all the way. You need to really give that a little bit of a push to get it to sit down flush like this one here does. It's like it doesn't want to get in there nice and flat all on its own. So let's get it in place. It's almost like it's hanging up on this this strip right here. So I may have to trim that to get that to fit in there just right. Here it's squeaking. It's like it's not staying down in there. So I'm going to take a look at this real quick and see what I need to do. Okay, so what needs to happen here in order for this to fit right is I think I'm going to have to, I didn't have to do it on this one, but I am going to have to do it on this one. Those hinges, I'm going to need to cut away some of this right here to get this side to drop down in. So I'm just going to make it real simple. Just make a chamfer on here so hopefully it'll fit down in there, because this part right here is angled, so it shouldn't take a whole lot of work. Just enough to get it, to get it to fit. So let's see if that was enough. Not quite. Close, but not quite. So I'm going to do a little bit more there. I could sand it as well, but I find that doing it like this sometimes takes less time than sanding. Sometimes it's more accurate. Yeah, it's getting better. A little bit more and we should be good. My wife is probably cringing in the other room because that is a hideous sound. It's the equivalent of fingernails on a chalkboard. A little bit more, I'm thinking. So I'm going to work on that a little bit and then come back. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on the video doing it. Okay, so I've got the engine covers in place. So the next part I need to do is part number 35B here, which goes right back here. So get sprue B and get that ready like that. Get that cut off and fits like that. So I'll just take a little bit of cement, get that around there like that. Make sure it's pressed down really good. All right, so that one's in place. So real quick, like, I'm gonna show you a little trick here with the old to me extra thin. When you start getting down near the bottom, when you only got about 1/4 of an inch or so, it gets kind of tough because this doesn't go all the way to the bottom. Okay, it's a little short. So what you can do is telescope that out just a little bit, like that. So you get a little bit of extra brush there, and then you don't have to clack it all around to get into the cement. Because boy, that sound drives me crazy. Okay, so let's see, we got those. So we need to do the toolboxes on the side here. So let's do 39B and 40B, which are the front toolbox and handle. So we got 39 and 40. All right, I'm blind. Here's number 40 right here. It's really long. I thought it was shorter. Oops. So I'll have to be careful with that because it's pretty thin, pretty fragile looking. So first I'll cut that off there and there. Looks pretty good. Nothing untoward there. So that looks good. So let's clean up this handle. And then take the sanding stick here. Give it a quick run on there, make sure there's no molding seam. Now here's something to remember too. So this one's ever so slightly bent. I could straighten it, and I will, but one thing to remember, these handles and stuff like that got banged around quite a bit, even during peacetime. So you don't have to be real worried about them being, unless you're wanting to do a factory fresh vehicle. Don't worry about the handle being a little bent. Okay, so whoops. So this goes in here like that. Okay, and you want to be careful because right here, there's these spacers. You want to make sure you're not on top of those spacers. There's one here as well. You want to use that as your guide as to where the toolbox or storage box goes. Okay, so just make sure that's sitting pretty flush. I'll cement there. A little bit there, that way it runs across the front and down the sides. Okay, so there's that. And then this handle, there's a couple of indentations where the handle will go. But before I do that, I think I want to glue the locking handles first. Those are 41B, and we need 2 of those per box. So let's cut off a couple of those. Those are pretty tiny, so I want to be careful not to send them flying off into oblivion. Those will be a little trickier to clean up because they're so small. Do it side sideways like that. Okay, that looks pretty good. Almost lost that one. Now, these are going to be really tricky to clean. So hopefully you got some good dexterity going on with the old phalanges. Yeah, that's good, because you want to make sure there's not a seam line on there, because since it's sticking up like that, any weathering you do is going to catch any imperfections. Okay, so there's those. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to do like I did on some of the other parts there earlier. Put just enough on there to hold it in place. Whoops. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put a little dot in that recess where that part goes. That'll hold it a little bit better. Yeah, much better. Make sure it's straight. Make sure the handle part is lifted off. Where you have a little tiny gap there, and voila. So we'll do the same thing here. Whoops, sorry about bumping that there, folks. Wow. Like that. And then we'll take this handle here, put a little bit of cement on each end. Put it in place thusly. And we are good to go. So I'll do the same thing with the other toolbox here. It's the same thing, just a little bit different, a little bit longer, but it's going to be the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and not bore you with that part. Okay, one thing I do want to point out is sometimes when you have a sprue gate that ends up, you end up with something like this. Kind of dips down below where it's supposed to be. All I do is I just use my knife, cut it this way carefully, and then cut it this way carefully, like that. Voila. There you go. Then you got your, in this case, the lid is reestablished. All right, so I'll continue on with this. Now I've got the toolbox on, the handles, the locking levers, and this muffler here. So the only thing left for step 3 are the hatches. So I'm going to cut those off real quick. We got 42 and 43. And 43, and then we got 44. We got 2 of those, one for each. Cut that. do it. Oops. Do a quick clean up here. Okay, we got that. And let's see, this one goes over here. Like that. And that one. Cleanup is pretty stinking easy on this kit so far. Not a whole lot of excessive stuff, which is surprising for such an old kit. Okay, then we'll do these Periscope cards here. These need a little bit of cleanup. It's not surprising because they're such small, fine pieces, and they're kind of complicated with all these angles and stuff. And the jingling noise you hear is one of our cats scratching like crazy behind me. It's not Christmas. All right, that looks good. Let me clean the other one up real quick. All right, the one is glued, and this one here, make sure it's all lined up. It's got little molded in rings, kind of locating points, and aren't really holes. Get that glued in place. Like that, and that finishes step 3. So in order not to make this one as long as the last one, we'll call this one quits here. Next time we'll come back and do steps number 4 and 5, I'm going to say. So thanks for watching the Italeri 1/35 scale M47. So if you have any questions or comments or anything, please leave them below and I'll get back to you as quick as I can. So until next time, I will see you all later.